Hi, Shalom friends. You know, our Holy Torah, the 5 books of Moses, or the Chumash as we call it in Hebrew, is not only the book of God's instructing the Jewish people, but it's actually a sefer. The 5 books are books that offer many prototypes and models in which which we can learn from and try to emulate. It would be logical to suggest that the story of the matriarchs, Sara, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, are real-to-life models of what motherhood entails. So I'd like to suggest something a little bit unusual, and that is to compare and contrast Sara with Rivka. Now, of course, I am not giving a judgment on it. Heaven forbid. These are people that are way beyond any ordinary person's evaluation. But I'm merely approaching it that the Torah has lessons. Perhaps we could learn something in terms of parenting and mothering from these two exceptionally holy women. Sarah very clearly is in charge of the education of Isaac. And in the Chumash, it says very clearly, when she saw Ishmael, his half-brother, acting inappropriately, she told the father, send him away, and the father did so, trusting the judgment of his wife. In fact, the Almighty God himself came and said to Abraham, listen to Sarah. And the implicit message is, she knows her children, she knows what's best for education. When it comes to Rivka, though, most of us don't really see parenting or mothering, but I would like to offer a perspective. Let's start from the beginning. Rivka has an unusual pregnancy, and she goes to a prophet of the Lord to ask why is she experiencing this unusual pregnancy. What is unusual about it? When she passes a place of paganism, there seems to be an urge from one of the fetuses to go out. And then when she passes a place of holiness, she again feels an inclination or an urge. Is this a mixed up child, essentially? And of course, the prophet says, no, you're going to have 2 children. One will be attracted to paganism, avodah zarah, and the other one will be attracted to holiness. Now, this is not an easy prophecy to take. Heaven forbid, which should never happen, that we are tested. But if a mother is told that you're having a child who will be physically not well, many of them suffer with the agonizing choice. Perhaps it's better to abort. So if you were told that you were going to have a child who was a spiritual misfit, you would agonize about this and be very, very apprehensive. But we don't find Rivka being upset at all, to the extent she doesn't share it with her husband. And when she has twins, it seems obvious to all that from the moment of birth, they're going to be very, very different type of people. One is red, one is filled with hair, and the other one is born holding on to his older brother's heel. Well, the children are growing up, and they separate. One seems to be more gentle, more sensitive, more studious, more spiritual. And the other one is a person who's attracted to animals, to bloodshed, to hunting, to cunning. And Rivka could actually see this prophecy materializing in front of her eyes. Astoundingly, she does not tell her husband about the prophecy, that one will be attracted to paganism and one to holiness. Why? Well, it's a matter of speculation. The sages of Israel give many possible interpretations, and one very possible interpretation is she didn't want to prejudice her husband against any one of the children. So as far as Yitzchak was concerned, he had 2 lovely children, twins, different temperaments, but of the same spiritual caliber. And Rivka is watching this. Eventually, as we all know, when it's time for Isaac, Yitzchak, to give a blessing to one of his children, he, in his innocence, thinks that the older one is actually the one that's more worthy, and Rivka who has a much better understanding of the temperament and of the character of her children, realized that the older one receiving the blessing from Isaac would actually abuse it, and it would be to his detriment and the detriment of the world. So she basically gets her favorite, Yaakov, to get the blessings and so on. Question. During this whole period, was Esav close to his mother? You say, well, in the Chumash it says that Isaac loved Esav and the mother loved Yaakov. But that's not answering the question. Saying that she loves does not mean that she dislikes or hates. It merely points out that it was easier for her to have affection openly with Yaakov, and Yitzchak had more open affection to Isaac. But that doesn't mean that either one disliked or disregarded the second. In other words, what I'm pointing out over here is that Rivka is an amazing woman. She's told that she's going to have 2 children, and now I'll borrow a term, one good and one bad, and she never condemns the bad one. The bad one is in the home, and she's cooking for him as she's cooking for Jacob. In fact, one can even suggest that she told Jacob, be nice to your older brother, he's your twin. Instead of taking the forceful approach that Sara did, which is Esav is wicked, and say to her husband, we have to separate the precious from the dross. Send away. She never said that. There's not even a hint to that. To the extent that even when Esav gets married, and the Chumash clearly says that he married the type of woman that did not fit in with the lifestyle of Rebekah or of Isaac, and they were both upset about Esav's lifestyle, still Esav came to the house. There's another very interesting point. The rabbis tell us as wicked and evil as Esav might have been, he still had a very, very strong affinity to his father and showed great respect. In fact, one rabbi admiringly said, I wish I could respect my father like Esav did. Before Esav would serve his father, he would get dressed up nicely as if he was going into royalty. And me, when my father says to do something, I bring him dinner, but I don't get dressed up for it. That essentially means that Rivka, the mother, saw Esav, in italics, the wicked, maybe on a daily basis. Maybe twice weekly, it's hard to know, doesn't say, but never is there a hint to Esav that I cannot come to dad because mom doesn't like me or mom doesn't want me. And never do we hear Rivka saying something negative to Yitzchak about Esav. Why? Could it be that there's a little bit of a hint to us that when we're dealing with children that are defiant, or that we are dealing with children that are disrespectful, perhaps the way is not to send them away and isolate them. Perhaps it is to extend and embrace them as part of the family, and indeed to compliment them on what can be complimented. Is it that far-fetched to think that Rivka did not say to Esav, I'm proud of you the way you treat your dad, disregarding the fact that Esav probably did not love his mother the way a Jewish boy should love his mother? Where am I going with this? See, Sara and Rivka are 2 different models. There's a time when there's an Ishmael that has to be sent away from the house. And there's a time when there's an Esav who should be seen as a twin brother. And you don't throw away a twin brother. I would go so far as to say that even at the end of time, when Jacob meets Esav, and it's prefaced by, I am frightened of my brother, when he meets his brother, there's no disrespect at all. He gives him a gift, there's an embrace, and when Esav says, let's go together, Yaakov doesn't say, what, me with you? You're evil, I'm good. He doesn't say that. He says, it's just not going to work out because the kids can't travel as fast. Isn't that amazing? A religious home, and someone who's acting out of the religion, and yet the mother and the father, and perhaps even the twin brother, never say, go away. You don't belong in this family. Today we talk about children that act out. Sometimes they call it, in the more observant religious circles, children at risk. And sadly, we read about families who don't know how to deal with this rebellious boy or girl. And often what they'll do is they'll just say to them, leave the house. You're ruining the atmosphere. We cannot have by the Shabbos table someone that shows up with a t-shirt, sneakers, and tattoos. This is not our family. Maybe, occasionally, that is the solution. I do not know. But I feel that only concentrating on Sarah's approach, which is send away Ishmael, and not paying enough attention to Rivka, is really harming us in today's day and age. And that's why I will end with a Jewish tradition, and especially the way it's explained in the Kabbalistic tradition, that the redemption will come through the accrued merit of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. But of the three, actually it will be in the merit of Isaac, and you cannot say Isaac without Rebekah. It was his only wife. They were loyal, as the Torah itself says, and he loved her. Friends, I think it's time to adapt more Rivka. I'll end off with, they say about a teacher who, of the fourth grade, he would always say to the third grade teacher at the beginning of the year or at the end of the previous year, tell me the students that you had the most trouble with. And the third grade teacher would say to the fourth grade teacher, I don't want to prejudice you, so I'd rather not tell it to you. And he said, I appreciate it, but please tell me. He said, but why? He said, for them, I want to show them more love. That's beautiful. Look at your kids and look at your acquaintances. If you happen to see someone who's acting out, someone who's not as respectful, think deeply. What is the best approach? Before the Mashiach comes, I believe we have to adapt the approach of Rivka. Embrace, love, and bring close. Shalom.